Hi, Bina.
Hi, Julie.
How are you on this rainy morning?
Well, it's a rainy afternoon and it has been raining. We've had some marvelous thunderstorms yesterday, really spectacular at night. Thunder and lightning and all sorts, and rained quite heavily. Today is really feels really water kind of logged air. I think there's more to come, and it's kind of cooled down a bit, so it's a lot more bearable.
Really,
I'm not dying. I'm not dying.
a relief from the hot weather. Good afternoon, everybody.
It was unbearable. I must say, it was unbearable, really.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to HR Bullets with Bina Briggs and Julie Grimes.
Hi.
HR, Jaguar White Recruitment. It's Friday afternoon, our regular HR Bullets. And today is hot topics, even though it's a rainy, cool day, around quarantines, redundancies, job market, and a big one, back to work, health and safety and welfare. Is that right? And a couple of bonus bullets at the end from Bina.
Yeah, and Brexit.
Oh, Brexit. Oh, yeah, we forgot about Brexit.
We'll talk about Brexit as well now, I think.
Absolutely. So on to quarantine, because that is the hot topic with the announcement again yesterday, isn't it, Bina? And that's how it's going to affect all of these people scrambling to get back to the UK or cancelling holidays. And
yeah.
So tell us the big impact of this quarantine now.
Okay, well, I mean, until last week, as you know, it was just Spain mainly that we were all concerned about, and holidays. And obviously now, last night, I think it got announced that we've got Holland and Malta and France, obviously, by tomorrow morning. I think it's 4 o'clock tomorrow morning. That, you know, if you're not in the country by then, if you're abroad in any of these countries, then quarantine will apply. That means that, okay, quarantine for people who are not working, that's fine, you know, if they're retired in a way. But those people who were expecting to be back home and then going actually to work on Monday, you've got a problem. So, you know, we talked about this last week quite in detail. So then, you know, not only the employee, but the employers, obviously both of them have to really now think very quickly over this weekend what they're going to do, what measures they're going to put in place. Is the employee now going to be able to work from home and still get paid, or not work, but maybe they've got annual holiday and they just take that annual holiday on top of what they've already had, possibly. If they're a key worker, possibly they might not be able to do any of that, in which case then they're stuck at home, and there may be that the employer says, sorry, I'm not going to pay you. So they may be on nil pay, or you know, they would have to come to some arrangements. So that's going to be a biggie. And given that it's spreading to so many different destinations from outside UK, and so that seems like it's just kind of started to lift the lid off again of this, you know, COVID-19 and lockdowns and so on and so forth. So it's going to be, I think, interesting over the next couple of weeks. And I think this is where people have really thought that we were coming out of it, and perhaps all of us may have been a bit complacent, and then suddenly, you know, we're going to find ourselves again in probably worse situation than before, or even equally bad. So
yeah, definitely feels like it's wobbling.
Yeah, employment point of view, that again is going to cause quite a headache.
Yeah, and I think employers and employees need to be getting on the phone and speaking ASAP if you've not already about.
I'm sure they must have already said something, you know, started talking to each other.
Hopefully.
Now, if they're literally, I understand that so many people are scrabbling in the news, trying to get onto ferries and planes and, you know, Eurostar and whatever. And not everybody's going to be able to do that, because a lot of the services are not all running on full schedules, are they? So, so that's one. And we've talked about redundancies, and I think we still need to touch on that because a lot of people are being made redundant all over the place. A friend of mine got made redundant only this week over in Poland. She works for a very, very large global travel company. She got told, and they're closing offices all over the place. She's not the only one. So that, again, from the employee point of view, what are you doing about your CV? Because I've been helping my friend with her CV, literally on Wednesday. She got told on Tuesday. And so Wednesday, Thursday, we've been just literally working flat out to make sure, and she's got a couple of really good jobs that she could go for. And we're just working with her to say, let's do it and get that right. So people need to think about those, where we have had consultations with some of the clients' employees today, yesterday. I think those clients have to make sure that, obviously you're doing the processes correctly and still sticking to the right process. If you've got any problems, please, don't shortcut any of the redundancy processes. Again, to remind people that we did this last week, that your employee is entitled to full pay, gross redundancy pay, and full notice pay. So do not do any shortcuts on that, because it will come back and bite you on the backside. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Even if they're furloughed and you give them notice, it is 100% full pay. I think we highlighted that last week. We're highlighting it again. The sad part is, Bina, that I've had many calls again this week from people that wasn't sure they were going to make redundant, because some of them are the only ones actually performing that job. So one particularly yesterday, couldn't believe it. I was like, oh no, really thought you were going to be safe. So predictions of the amount of people hitting the market in August, I think is
as I said, I thought my friend was safe enough, and she was one of the top kind of performers in the top 10% in the company, and so you think she'll be safe.
Yeah.
No way.
You've got to think positive. It's not just do it's happening to, reach out, let's get your CV.
And get the CV sorted, start looking around, see what else you can do. And I think a lot of people have, mentioned the subject as well, to say, look, even if you can't find any paid work whilst you're doing nothing, go and see if you can, knock on some organizations for voluntary work or anything like that. Just skill up, do, and start spreading your network and start looking at, what else can you do? What are your skills and what else can you do? What are your interests? Because something might come out of just your interest, if nothing else, So this is the time to be very, very innovative and use your initiative and really concentrate on what is it that you can do, rather than, oh my God, I haven't got a job. Just think about being flexible, think about how you could really, kind of utilize the skills that perhaps you haven't used in this current job, or the one that you've just been made redundant from. So, and a lot of us are, a lot of people are very kind of, they have number of interests and so on. And so,
it's so much better and a potential employer to say, I've been doing this, I've been online looking at this certification, I've done this course, I've been volunteering here. It's so much sort of more positive to talk about at an interview, and it will be definitely well received.
And these are the kind of things that would help people, because they're looking elsewhere, and quite often you might just find that there is a job there, or there's an opening, or people see you doing something really worthwhile, or see you doing something that they say, oh, they're really great, how can we give them the job as such. So I think definitely do all that. So we talked about redundancies, we talked about quarantine, we talked about, upgrading your CV, looking around, see what else can you do. talking about returning employees now, anyone, obviously we talked about redundancies and all that, but all those employees who are still working for you, all the ones who may have actually been given to work from home. I'm not talking about furloughed employees, I'm talking about employees who are still working, but not necessarily in the workplace, they're working from home, or that you might have half and half. Some of them, now started going back into the workplace part of the time, and part of the time they're working from home. The safe distancing, the social distancing has to happen. The welfare of individuals is very much a shared responsibility between the employee and the employer. The employee needs to tell the employer if they're having any issues or any concerns, or they are suffering from something, or they're not coping that well, or they've got some domestic issues, or their personal circumstances, which is putting additional pressure on them. Because I think it's been in the press, in the HR press, and that the hours that people are working from home are stretching. The ones who are working from home as an option at the moment, those hours are kind of getting longer and longer. And I think there is this danger of people just totally burning out.
Yes.
I mean, people are feeling it anyway, but I think the responsibility is of the employer as well as employee, because the employer needs to make sure that those employees who are working from home, that they're not forgotten. But the ones who are ready to come back into the workplace, whether it is for part of the time or full time, have you got their welcome arranged? Have you got their welcome totally, ready, i.e., all the safekeeping, but also how are you going to integrate them back into the workplace? How are you going to make sure that they don't feel like an alien who's, you've been away on a long break for months, and then, from March, and then suddenly you're just being thrown into the workplace, and it's a stranger workplace to what they left 4 months ago. So I think this is where I think this is where people should be concentrating as well, as to what have they got in place, and have they got it all compliant, and have they got it more than compliant, and what are they doing about their employees? So that's something that I think it's going to be the agenda for the next few weeks, because as people start coming back into the workplace and employers start thinking about opening up their workplaces, then that's something that must be looked at.
Yeah, some are. I'd say as well, and some of my clients are basically saying at the moment they've got no plans at all to bring people back in unless they absolutely have to. And I think, like you said, it's bubbling. Nobody knows if there's going to be don't want to mention it, a second wave. So bringing everybody back in and then having everybody to go back home, that's going to be a massive upheaval. But you're right, people do need to be thinking about doing something to bring people back in and look after them. And you're right, it is an employer's responsibility. So yeah, this is where good employers will care. So health and safety and welfare, mental wellness as well.
In every way, but also, it's like people calling it as onboarding or reboarding, i.e. you're introducing your employee back in as if they've just come in on the first day. But it's more than that. It's just re-establishing those personal connections again. Yes. Because, seeing somebody on a Zoom meeting or like that, like we are, it's a lot different to somebody being here with you in person, and suddenly where you would have shaken a hand or you might have given them a hug, you can't do that. Also, you have to be mindful of the distance again with your employees and with your fellow colleagues and so on and so forth. So there's a lot to think about, and I think this is where both parties need to really work together. So those returning, and I'm going to talk about Brexit.
Brexit. Absolutely. The forgotten Brexit.
Well, it's kind of literally been showed at the back, hasn't it? You know, in January we're going, oh my God, you know, we're leaving, and it's 31st of December. It's a whole year yet, don't worry about it, you know, kind of thing. And then suddenly, you know, the COVID-19 happened and everything, the pandemic, and we forgot all about Brexit. But, you know, the clock is still ticking. We're still on 31st of December. That's only about 3 and a bit months away.
Scary.
And, you know, the way this year is going, before we blink, it will be 31st of December. The thing is, you know, we have to start thinking about, as employers and employees, about the employed status and, you know, worker status and people who are who hold non-UK, non-British passports. You know, what rights they've got, what status they've got, what paperwork they've got, and all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to go into too much detail today, but just kind of drop it in here to say, I just kind of drop it and let the ripples go through.
Gonna like us. We'll just keep throwing all these things that they have to think about, but no, I think they will really. I think they're pleased with it, and yeah, so definitely.
Yes, we are here to remind and support, and it is just to say, look, it's 3.5 months, and I'm sure most people have got it sorted. But you know, Brexit is coming back again on the agenda. I've got a couple of really fantastic immigration lawyers, friends in the business world, and they're going to be doing webinars and so on. So when they start, I think they're doing them in the next couple of weeks. So when they do, I shall promote it through LinkedIn, and I can promote it on here as well to say, if anybody wants to sit in there and listen to what they're saying, it might be worthwhile. And I'm sure a number of organizations, number of practices, solicitors, and you know, employment lawyers, they will be looking at that, the chamber and so on. But I think it's worth start thinking about that as well, because if you have got foreign nationals working for you on some kind of visa status, so whether they're on settled or unsettled or whatever status, you know, what is it that you've got to do between now and 31st of December and so on. So yeah, so we'll talk more about it later. And I think the rest, I think I'm going to leave that to you, I think. Is it?
Well, we can bounce back and work with there. So in terms of the bounce back and business grants, they're obviously still out there. We're not going to go into detail again. We spoke about it last week, like all of the other things, job retention, but for employers to look into, you know, whether they're going to be eligible for this. I think a few of my clients have already taken
a lot of people have
bounce back, but the business grant, the one between 1,000 and 2,000, I still think that's quite new.
To be honest, today I had an email from it come through Winter and Stevenage, and I'm going to look into it more, because it said that I you know, obviously, you know, you need to talk to them and see whether you qualify for any grants or any support, business support. And so I thought, oh, so obviously through Winter has come to me, and that's exactly what we were talking about last time about the hubs in different parts of the country, and we come under the Hertfordshire hub, although we're, you know, I'm in Luton, and so obviously they found me and they said, you know,
have a look into it.
Have a look into it. So I shall have a look into it, and I'll let you know more about it next week. But that's something that we need to think of, you know, people should think about. But the bounce back loans, they're on till October sometime. So a number of people have taken those to, you know, literally to do something with the businesses, or B, develop them, or really, you know, some people have said, know what my financial status would be. And that's what the reason why these are, that even after having received some grants, they still might be struggling come end of the year. So that's where they started to think about the bounce back loan. Yeah.
In fact,
that's quite a lot going on there, but I think the hot topic has to be, if anybody has got employees who are coming back from holidays, quarantine, that's the thing about this week and this weekend. And what are you going to do about that? Holidays, obviously, we're still in August, and people are still taking holidays or able, they want to take some holidays or they don't want to take holidays. So that's a balancing act going on there. And redundancies, don't please shortcut any of the processes.
Yeah.
So carry on and make sure you do it correctly. And that's it. And recruitment, CVs, update your CV, talk to people like you. And what's out there? What's out there?
In August, in August is not great. I mean, I've got a couple of roles on that I'm looking to fill at the minute. They're quite specific, but generally, it's going in a direction of that way, not this way. But as I said, we've always said we remain positive. Let's think what we're positive in terms of September, October, November, because that's a word on the street. Who knows?
Yeah.
But CVs need to be looked at, and if any clients out there are sort of trying to work out what to do about their recruitment in terms of the apprenticeships, the training, anything like that, then it doesn't have to be full on recruitment. I can sort of give advice on that,
Exactly.
like you can, between us, Bina. So
yeah, between us, we are there to support and help. And even though it's all doom and gloom, and they're saying, well, we've had the worst recession now starting in the UK in the last couple of days.
yes.
We all come through 2009 and so on and so forth. And I think opportunities do happen when we're really down. And so we just have to keep working at it every day, each day, and just keep pushing.
Absolutely. We're here to help.
Yep. And it's Friday.
Yes. Another week's gone by.
Oh, don't talk about that. Just kind of click, 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 click. It's just going.
Well, it's been a good week. There is a lot of doom and gloom out there, but we do have to remember what the government's doing for us, for employees that haven't been in work for a long time, for employers that need extra money. So we've got to think about what we have been providing now. We are getting help, and just think positive.
Yep. That's all we can do. And I think the more we kind of look out for each other, this is the time when we should be just not thinking about us, but people around us as well. And we'll come through.
Be kind in business.
Be kind. Yeah.
Be kind in business, especially now.
There was one thing I'll read you, something that came up today on my my feed on WhatsApp, and it was from it's from my nephew in Mumbai, and he said, and I'll read this out, and I think it is so apt that you won't believe it. He said, I thought 2020 would be the year I get everything I want. Now I know 2020 is the year I appreciate everything I have. Oh. And I'll leave you on that thought.
I love that. What a lovely quote to end on. We should all think about that, Bina. Thank you.
Exactly.
You have a good weekend, and thank you again, and we'll see you next week.
Yep, I'll be here. See you then. Bye.
Bye for now.